This is Eye on Hong Kong with Key.
And this is Harminder, and we'll be discussing the top news for the week involving Hong Kong and China.
Well, I've heard some slogans saying that universal suffrage is neither true or false. What about the baby formula? And what about banknotes? If you say something is neither true nor false, you are admitting that it's false. And you have the right to interpret whatever it is. So if you say, I don't mind whether the baby formula is genuine or not, or the banknote is genuine or not, I'll just take it. And now we refuse to accept it. You then blame the victim. So just like the TV drama character Ding Hai, that he beat people up and blame the victim.
And that was, of course, Charles Mok.
I don't know how you can understand what comes out of the interpretation. It's just just so funny for me listening to what I said in Chinese being interpreted in English, and it turns out to be like that.
Unfortunately, that's all us English speakers have to rely on, but it's better than nothing. But thank you, Charles Mok, for being here.
Thank you.
Legislator for the IT sector, functional constituency. And so you were there for the historic, well, some say historic vote, some say historic bumbling by the pro-establishment. What was going through your mind when you saw this?
People standing up.
All these people just stand up and leave. Did you know?
I didn't have much idea. I think somebody was sort of mentioning that they might want to wait for Mr. Lau Wong-fat. But to me at least, I didn't care. I mean, I to be honest, I wanted to get it over with as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to sit there and push my button, oppose, and then get it over with. If there aren't enough people in the chamber at the time, then the president will tell us and tell people to come back. So I don't care. I mean, since the president already announced that he's not going to call or to allow for any recess to be taken at that stage, then I just sit there and push my button.
Do you think that because after that people have this conspiracy theory, and then is it really true that they're waiting for Mr. Lau Wong-fat?
Well,
what do you think about that?
I think, given that so many people on the pro-establishment camp is sticking around to that particular reason, with little or no dissent in hinting that there might be other reasons. To be honest, I tend to believe it. There are other conspiracy theory. For example, some people saying that maybe there are some people in the pro democracy camp who are trying to switch to the other side, and the government or the pro-establishment side wanted to buy a little bit of time to make it happen. I actually don't believe that, because the reason is because. Not saying that this is impossible, that nobody is, still. But even if you think that is possible, somebody might be still, wavering or whatever. The fact is, if they need the time, there were so many other reasons to have taken the time that is needed. Any one particular pro-establishment person could come up and speak for another 15 minutes before we allowed Carrie Lam to start to talk. If the government, and actually, if something like that is going to be is in the scheme, then who's going to call the shot? It cannot be the pro-establishment legislator. It has to be the government. Right? Then Carrie Lam, I counted, I sort of estimated or listened to what they were speaking. Each of them took about 10 minutes or less. So the three of them, the
Raymond
secretary,
Tam and Rimsky,
the three of them actually took just about 30 minutes or less. They could have talked for much longer, right? If they really wanted to buy a bit of time to make it happen, that's the best thing that they could do.
But it didn't look like that could be possible, because then how are you going to, 5 people are going to switch their votes suddenly?
Yeah.
You know, not 4, there was 5 because.
Well, in
sector.
retrospect, I always said that. Well, first of all, the other reason, going back to that, the other reason is, hey, let's say, really, some of the pan-democrats really were thinking about switching,
Right.
and in the end, it didn't happen.
Right.
If I am one of those pro-establishment legislators, why am I, crying all over and taking the blame? I would have say it was this and that pro-democracy pan-democrat
Right.
who they would break the story.
Right.
Because I as a pro-establishment legislator, let's say, I wouldn't want to take the blame for that guy,
Right.
on the pan-democrat
But
side.
they're still not doing that.
They're not taking. I wouldn't want to take the fall for him.
Right. Because do you think that Jeffrey Lam, who organized this walkout, if you were the pro-establishment, would you want him to resign for what he did? Do you think he should take that
Well,
sort of...
I think somebody, if I were on that camp, well, I don't know. Let's say, first of all, pan-democrats never acted like that. Would never act like that.
Right.
I mean, to be honest, right then I was joking with Albert Ho. I said, if you are not coming out and this is like you're the senior guy or whatever,
Yeah.
and you didn't show up, none of us is going to wait for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean,
Why
the other,
this guy?
yeah.
You know?
So first of all, I guess it's difficult for me to answer that question because I really don't think like those people, because they, you listen to some of them saying that, oh, if the leader walks out, I just follow. I don't think.
Right.
For us, it's like the difference. I guess one of the differences between us and them is that we probably have too many different opinions rather than.
Because you're quoted here saying the walkout, this is in the South China Morning
Yeah,
Post, the
what did I
walkout
say?
has demonstrated how most of the Beijing loyalists can easily be manipulated. And it has sent a clear message to Hong Kongers. Do you want such representatives?
Oh, sure.
in the
Yeah,
legislature?
because I think Alan Leung also said something similar, that this is a perfect demonstration of what is, they talk about bundled together. They people are sort of criticizing us earlier, saying that all these pan-democrats are being bundled together as if somebody is able to tell us what to do, and I have no choice but to oppose, even if I wanted to support. The fact is that hey, if anybody want to switch, I could switch at the last minute. Who can control me?
Right.
But the reality is, this is a much better demonstration of what is bundling without thinking.
Right.
The problem with us, or the good or bad, the reality with us is that we have our own opinion. And I wouldn't say that nobody has tried to lobby us with various ideas and suggestions and so on. But, in the end, we make up our own mind. But it's the perfect demonstration that, a lot of them don't really have their own mind.
Have you since you said talking about the lobbying, and I have to say that because most people will consider you as a swing vote, then any pro-establishment people approach you to lobby you to vote for them.
The reality is, as I said actually in another part of my speech, that for example, during in January, I had one meeting with Carrie Lam. I had another meeting with Raymond Tam.
Right.
Breakfast meeting, both of them. So short meetings only in January. And we were expecting that they would arrange further meetings with central government officials, probably around, after the Chinese New Year or whatever. Never happened. Nothing happened until April, and which was right before the package was announced, a week before that. And then myself and Kenneth Leung, we went and met with Kerry again. Between that period of time or after the April meeting, no phone call, no WhatsApp, no
100 million
messages at all from no 100 million, unfortunately. Or I shouldn't even say unfortunately. People would say, "Oh, you wanted it." Okay, but anyway, no contact from the Hong Kong government. Okay, what about the central government?
Yeah.
No. No,
Nothing.
None either. And then people say whether there might be other middlemen.
Right.
Well, I wouldn't say that these are middlemen. There are other people, including, I would even say that some of the academics who proposed the the moderate packages
Albert Chen
earlier, not him, but
others, okay.
within that group, some of them actually are quite persistent in sending us messages and telling us, oh, this is going to be very bad for Hong Kong. You're not going to get universal suffrage for a long time. You should let it pass, and so on. But I would consider that to be genuine-hearted lobbying,
Right.
rather than having something that they want to offer to us,
Right.
or threaten us with to say that you should switch the vote. So really, all I could say is that my sense is that the Hong Kong government wanted to present an image that they have been trying very hard, and we're just very stubborn. But in reality, no.
So
They just want this image. They haven't done much. They don't want it to pass.
So you're saying that actually the government didn't really try that hard.
No,
Even though they're saying
not
that
at all.
they tried.
Not
the
at all.
best.
The only thing I should mention is also that
Right.
one phone call from the head of the Chief Executive's office, Mr. Yao Tanghua,
Okay.
Edward Yao,
Yeah.
because he called me in I think it was June 3rd, and asked for a meeting for me myself alone with
Right.
CY Leung,
Right.
and I turned that down
Right,
publicly because I thought that I wouldn't want to put myself in that situation that
Right.
in fact, right after that call, I talked with other pan-democratic colleagues and just double-check with them.
Did anybody else get a call like that? No.
Nobody got a call from the chief executive's office, and only I did. I mean, well, I don't know. Maybe they thought that I'm the easiest one or whatever, or they have something else to talk to me about the IT bureau or whatever. But hey, I'm saying that I don't want to present myself to that sort of situation.
And since then, have your constituents come up to you and given you feedback on?
Oh, of
since
course,
you
we
voted?
get emails and other people
generally?
before and after about the different opinions. Some people would support, some people would tell us that definitely to oppose. I would say that more comments that I received are from people telling me to oppose.
Okay.
But in a sense, it is understandable because I think on the one hand, maybe a lot of those people who might support it have given up lobbying me. And on the other hand, it might be other concerned people, friends who might really be worried that something last minute may happen and I pressed the wrong button or whatever. So they just want to remind me and make sure that I do the right thing. So maybe I wouldn't say that this is as accurate as the public opinion poll, but at least in the messages that I got before or after, or afterwards, people sending me a few messages to thank me for doing that. I do think that I got more messages from supporters rather than from dissenter. One of the reasons why that is the case is I've always thought that out of the 30-some to 40 or just about 40% of people who are very opposed, opposed to this package, they are very steadfastly opposed to it. Versus, I believe many of those people on the support side, definitely there might be a good proportion of them that are very steadfastly, very care about it very much. But I think that actually quite a lot of them are just thinking about this package as nice to have. So they are not as steadfast or serious about the outcome than those who are opposed to it.
Okay, so since the end of the reform package and the vote, CY Leung came out and said that the funding for the IT Bureau will now be pushed back in favor of more livelihood issue items. Now, you're the IT sector's representative.
Yes.
Are you disappointed that
No, I've actually said on the, he made the announcement on the Friday the 19th.
Right.
And in fact, the week before that, on the Friday the 12th, which was the previous Finance Committee meeting, that particular meeting, there was only one item on the agenda, a very short item that took about 10 minutes. We ended up spending maybe about an hour and a half's time in that meeting, but more than an hour's time was basically spent by legislators, including myself, most of us, the pan-democratic legislator, telling the government that they are doing the wrong thing by putting the IT Bureau ahead of other livelihood and other important matters that needed funding, because the government should know very well that with a controversial, regardless of your position about the IT Bureau, with a controversial item like that, with the remaining time in our meeting agenda and so on, 3 days of meeting, 4 hours each, there's no way you could pass that.
Right.
Particularly because there has been, like it or not, people who said that they would oppose it. If the government insists on putting it first, that means that all these livelihood matters will be delayed toward after the summer break.
Right.
So the only choice, even for someone who is in favor of establishing the Bureau as quickly as possible, the only choice, I think, is to let the livelihood matters go through first.
So you're in favor of the IT Bureau being
Well, my position has
established?
always been in favor of it because, number one, we ever since the original IT and Broadcasting Bureau was removed in 2003, we know that the technology strategy for Hong Kong and the emphasis on development of new technology and so on has been lagging behind.
But is government the answer for that? Because
That's a good question.
So far, government isn't very good when it comes to innovation, or they're good at providing the infrastructure for companies to innovate and develop their own,
Right.
platforms
Right.
and whatever. But when government usually gets involved directly, it usually ends up being a train wreck or just overspending.
Yes and no. I'll give you some examples.
Sure.
First of all, I do agree that government oftentimes in a situation like this is part of the problem. Right? But it doesn't prevent that possibly in some other ways, government, first of all, they should stop being a part of the problem itself. But on the other hand, that doesn't preclude the possibility that government can be part of the solution. But they just haven't done enough. If we look at some of the other jurisdictions or countries in Asia, you look at Singapore, you look at Taiwan, you look at Japan, you look at Korea, you look at even China and so on, Thailand, Malaysia, everybody has a equivalent or similar structure as a technology or IT bureau or ministry or whatever. So functional, in terms of government administration or breaking up of responsibility, is pretty typical. First of all, second, it's not that Hong Kong never had an IT or technology-specific bureau. Remembering that between 2003 and 1998 and 2003, we actually had the Information Technology and Broadcasting Bureau. And over that short period of time, about 4 or 5 years, actually, the amount of work that they have done, of course, you might argue about the success or fail or not so success of some of these initiatives. But all the present things that we enjoyed or we have, the Innovation and Technology Commission, the Innovation and Technology Fund, the Cyberport Science Park, in S3, the Applied Science and Technology Research Institute, and legislation such as the Electronic Transaction Ordinance were all done in those 5 years. After that, nothing happened. They were only repeating the previous stuff. Even, let's say, in terms of legislation, the Electronic Transaction Ordinance hasn't been updated since it was enacted in about, I think, 1999 or 2000. Whereas other countries have revised the law to make it updated to catch up with the technology. So the reality, I think, also points to me that, in terms of our government, whether, of course, other people would argue that, then it could mean that Greg So or somebody else within the current structure, they could have done the same thing with or without the new bureau. I mean, it's very difficult for me to argue otherwise. All I could say is that when we had a bureau dedicated to this function, it seemed to have functioned much better than when we don't have it.
Okay.
But of course, I do agree that there's always another possibility that the government may set up the bureau, but ended still being doing nothing. But of course, we hope that they would do better than.
I think it's probably some people will still have this conspiracy theory about the government for having the IT bureau, because they will think that the government will appoint someone that actually supported CYLM before. How would you deal with this kind of argument?
Well, number one, chief executive always appoints someone who probably listened to him,
right,
or is in his camp. So I think that is probably a given anyway. I do agree that if there are certain people, citizens who believe that because I'm opposed to this particular government and any expansion or making it bigger is something that I oppose. I actually do appreciate that particular argument, even though I may not totally be in agreement with it. The reason is because, to me at least, the reasons I stated earlier, and also I think in a way this particular bureau, if it is functionally a better structure for a government, then maybe I'm not naive. Some people may think that way, but I do believe that I want to have a better structure regardless of who might be the chief executive. I do believe that CY Leung, and it's up to Hong Kong people to make sure that he hopefully will not be our chief executive next time, even though we don't get to vote. Only those 12,000 people will, but I think public opinion do matter. Remembering that last time in 2012 he did enjoy a higher popularity than his opponent. So it's up to us to make sure that he doesn't continue to be the chief executive. So in a way, I think I just want to look at it as if it is a better structure, if it really helps, then and you see that getting a new bureau set up isn't a trivial matter. It takes so many obstacles, in different committees, subcommittees in LegCo, and then the finance committee and so on. So it's not easy. So we've gone this far. So I do believe that I just look at it as a matter of this particular structure. If it's good, then we'll give it a chance.
I think they said that now we already kind of know who will be the right. So would you think that he is a suitable person to be appointed as a director of the bureau? Well,
I've known him for a long time, Nicky Yang. We're talking about since he became on board as the CEO of Cyberport many years ago. I don't even remember, probably 8 or 9 years ago or 10. So I've known him throughout his tenure in the Cyberport.
Right.
And I think as an execution person and someone who knows the industry, and he had some experience in the U.S. as well. I think he's a good choice. Capable choice. Now I cannot say that how much he is a CY Leung fan or whatever. That's hard for me to say. Of course, he denies it. He told us that he only met with CY once before he was approached for the job. I don't know. I mean, I cannot say that he lied.
What do you think he can bring to the table himself with the IT Bureau if he had the funding and the department?
Well, I think the ideas is simple. if you tell him to do the job, if you tell me or anybody to do the job, it's pretty simple. We need to establish strategy for making sure that we continue to have manpower supply, which is a serious issue for IT or any technology area.
Why do we have that shortage?
Well, people are not having babies. That is the first reason.
You're talking about local,
or even, of course, we need to compete with other jurisdictions to attract people to come in at the same time.
Right.
But we've been having a big shortage for quite a long time, and not having a baby is a big issue.
True.
And in the next 10 years, this situation is going to be just getting worse because if you look at the
we have one of the worst fertility rates in the world. Yeah.
But beyond that, also a lot of issues in terms of technology development, government can play a better role. First thing they needed to do is to improve the situation where government doesn't tend to want to buy from local. They always go to the biggest vendor because officials feel that they get the best protection in terms of I'm buying from the biggest international brand. If something bad happened, then it's none of my fault. So this sort of mentality needs to change, and it's exactly what we've seen from other jurisdictions like Singapore or Malaysia or another that have been more proactive in using government procurement to support its own industry.
Okay, well, we have to end it right there. We're actually running out of time, but thank you, Charles Mok, for coming in.
Thank you.
And, hopefully, no matter what, this IT Bureau does facilitate some positive outcomes.
Well, I'll just add one more point. I think it's also up to us to make sure that some of those bad things are not going to happen because, for example, people are worried that whether or not government will, curry favor to particular
favorable contracts and stuff like that.
And so on. I do believe that, in a sense, IT industry isn't really like the land or property industry.
Right.
It's a lot more independent and a lot more dispersed and so on. It's much more difficult to make those sort of things happen. But still, I think it's up to us to make sure, monitor and make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen.
Quick answer to this. Is robotics also part of the IT structure?
Well, because the Innovation and Technology Commission is part of it, and that particular commission funds all these R&Ds and so on. So in a sense, robotics should be under it.
Because a lot of people say that's the future. Well, that's it. And our final segment, we always have on every show, is our Shame on You award that we give out to...
Don't give it to me.
No, it's not to you.
Thank you.
It's to the worst person or persons of the week. And we've nominated all legislators that walked out because they did not do their job, whether you agree with them or not. They did not do their job, and they left for one person who has one of the worst attendance records in LegCo, and for some reason they needed to stop the world for Lawang Fat.
I think I would do it because they got supporters. They got a lot of signatures from their signature campaign. It does represent a lot of people in Hong Kong, but they did not vote. So
yeah, if you believe those signature campaigns. So all those legislators, you have just received the
Shame on you
award. And you can all enjoy it because I'm sure you're getting the same talk from the liaison office right now. Thank you so much for joining us this week. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/IONHK pod, Twitter at twitter.com/IONHK pod. We still have the audio podcast. You can search on iTunes for ION Hong Kong, and we'll be back next week. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.